The winter of 1873 unleashed a brutal blizzard across the Colorado Territory. The kind settlers whispered about in dread. Winds howled through the plains, hurling snow in blinding sheets, and temperatures plummeted to merciless lows. In a small, isolated cabin, Anna Gardner watched the storm rage through the frost-coated window, her heart heavy with fear. 3 weeks earlier, her life had brimmed with promise. She and her husband Samuel had journeyed west from Pennsylvania, eager to claim a new life as cattle ranchers. But Samuel had never seen that dream fulfilled. 2 days after Anna gave birth to their twins, Benjamin and Lily, Samuel fell ill with a raging fever. Within 48 hours he was gone, leaving Anna alone in the wilderness with 2 fragile lives, depending entirely on her. She had barely managed to dig a shallow grave behind the cabin before the snow came, marking it with a crude wooden cross that now lay buried beneath 3 feet of snow. Anna stepped away from the window, her body aching with exhaustion. She hadn't slept for more than an hour at a time since Samuel's death, constantly tending the twins or struggling to keep the fire alive. She bent over the makeshift cradle Samuel had lovingly built from pine, brushing a trembling hand over Benjamin's downy head and adjusting the blanket around Lily. "We'll find a way," Anna whispered, though her voice betrayed the gnawing doubt within her heart. Her food stores were running dangerously low. The small pile of firewood beside the hearth was nearly gone, and the nearest settlement, Willow Creek, was 15 miles away. An impossible distance in the blizzard, especially with 2 newborns. Anna had written to her parents back in Pennsylvania, but even in the best weather, mail took weeks to cross the country. She knew no help would arrive from that direction. Night fell, and with it came even colder air. Anna tossed the last substantial log onto the fire and stared at the meager pile of kindling that remained. Tomorrow she would have to break up the chairs, maybe even the cradle, just to keep the fire burning. With a sigh, she wrapped herself in a worn wool shawl and rocked the cradle gently. Miles away, Kai Blackwood crouched inside a narrow cave, grateful for the shelter. Known to his Comanche tribe as Eagle Eye, Kai was 32, one of the tribe's most skilled hunters. His mixed ancestry, Comanche mother, white fur trader father, had given him the rare ability to move between both worlds. But even Kai had been caught off guard when the blizzard swept across the plains, forcing him to hunker down with his kill, a deer, enough to keep him fed for days. By the 3rd day in the cave, Kai sensed the storm's fury ebbing. The wind shifted slightly, the snowfall lessened, and the savage howling faded. He strapped on his snowshoes, hoisted his pack with the precious deer meat, and began the long journey back to his people's winter encampment. About 4 miles into his trek, Kai spotted something unusual, a thin wisp of smoke curling skyward in the distance. Frowning, he paused, studying the snow-blanketed landscape. No tracks, no movement. The faint smoke was barely visible, a dying fire. Trouble. Kai deliberated briefly. His tribe wouldn't expect him for another day, and his conscience would not let him walk past what might be someone's last stand against the cold. Adjusting his course, he set off toward the smoke. Inside the cabin, Anna jolted awake at the sound of footsteps crunching outside. Her heart pounded as she grabbed Samuel's rifle, which leaned near the door, though her trembling hands doubted their aim. "Who's there?" she called, her voice hoarse from disuse. A pause, then a deep voice, carrying the trace of an unfamiliar accent. "I mean no harm. I saw your smoke. Do you need help?" Anna hesitated, her eyes darting to the cradle, where Benjamin stirred and Lily whimpered. "I'm opening the door," she called, fumbling with the frozen latch. As the door swung open, Anna stared in shock. A tall man stood there, his skin bronzed, his hair black and pulled back from a weathered face bearing both European and Comanche features. He was wrapped in buckskins and furs, a hunting bow slung over his shoulder, snowshoes on his feet. His dark eyes swept over her with swift, instinctive assessment, flicking to the cradle and the meager hearth. "The fire is almost gone," Kai said gently, his hands visible, palms out. "My name is Kai Blackwood. I'm a hunter. I was caught in the storm. You need help. Anna's legs nearly buckled with exhaustion and overwhelming emotion. I'm Anna Gardner, she rasped. My husband. He died just after the twins were born. Her voice cracked, the raw grief pouring forth. I don't know what to do. Kaya stepped forward cautiously. May I come in? I can help with firewood and food. Tears filled Anna's eyes as she stepped aside. Kai entered the cabin, noting everything with the practiced eye of a survivor. The empty food shelf, the tiny cradle, the pale, exhausted woman clutching a rifle more for comfort than defense. First, the fire, Kai murmured, kneeling by the hearth. From his pack, he produced tinder and carefully coaxed the flames back to life. Then, without another word, he grabbed the axe by the door and disappeared outside. Moments later, the steady rhythm of chopping wood rang through the storm's silent air. Anna sank onto a chair, her head in her hands. When Kai returned, arms loaded with pine logs, she nearly wept with relief. This will keep you warm through the night, he said, expertly stacking the wood. And I've venison. I'll make stew. As the rich scent of cooking meat filled the small cabin, Anna's shoulders shook with silent sobs. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to repay you. No repayment, Kai said firmly. No one survives alone in this. He glanced toward the cradle. How old? 3 weeks, Anna murmured, stroking Lily's cheek. Benjamin and Lily. Kai nodded, thoughtfully. Strong names. That night, as the fire crackled and the twins slept, Anna watched the stranger work, silent, capable, steady. For the first time in days, she felt the tiniest flicker of hope. Morning dawned even colder than the day before, but the sky was clear at last. Anna wrapped herself in every layer she could find, bundling Benjamin and Lily in Samuel's thickest wool blanket. Kai entered the cabin after securing their supplies outside on the Travos, a sled-like carrier he had fashioned for the journey. It is time, Kai said softly. Anna's hands trembled as she carefully placed the twins in the fur-lined nest of the travois. Kai checked the bindings, adjusting them with practiced care. Like little bear cubs, he said with a rare smile, stepping back to admire his work. Anna paused at the cabin's door, her eyes sweeping over the rough walls, the small window with frost still clinging to the corners, and the cradle where her children had spent their first weeks. I'll return, she whispered, as though speaking to Samuel's memory. She touched the rifle leaning by the door one last time, then followed Kai outside. The landscape stretched in every direction, a vast, blinding sea of white. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long blue shadows across the snow. Kai handed Anna a pair of snowshoes he had fashioned from pine and rawhide. Walk in my tracks, he instructed. If you tire, tell me. With a grunt, he hoisted the travois harness over his shoulders and began breaking a trail through the snow. Anna stumbled at first, unfamiliar with the snowshoes, but gradually found her rhythm behind him. The only sounds were the soft crunch of snow beneath their feet and the occasional chirp of a winter bird overhead. They traveled steadily through the morning, kept set a pace that Anna could maintain, stopping often to check on the twins and allow her brief rests. Despite the brutal cold, Anna felt herself warming from exertion. As Kai had predicted, the hours passed, the vastness of the land pressing down on her spirit. But each time she felt herself falter, Kai would glance back, a silent encouragement in his eyes. Near midday, they found shelter near a rocky outcropping. Kai built a small fire, melting snow for drinking water and warming strips of venison. Anna fed the twins, marveling at how peacefully they had traveled. They're strong, Kai remarked, watching as Anna burped. Benjamin gently. My people would say they have powerful spirits. Anna smiled softly, her heart aching. Their father was strong, she whispered. I hope they remember him, even if they never truly knew him. They will know him through your stories, Kai said, his voice low. That's how children learn of ancestors they never met. As they prepared to continue, Anna noticed Kai frowning slightly at the horizon. "Something wrong?" she asked, her stomach tightening. "The wind's shifting," he murmured. "We need to move quickly." By mid-afternoon, dark clouds loomed in the west. The wind picked up, sharp and biting. Kai quickened their pace, his stride longer, his movements more urgent. Anna pushed herself harder, her muscles burning, but the thought of another storm drove her forward without complaint. The first snowflakes fell just as the light began to fade. Anna's heart sank, a shiver of fear rushing down her spine. She remembered the blizzard's savagery, the endless days and nights of isolation, and the terror of holding her babies close, wondering if they would survive until morning. Kai stopped abruptly, scanning the terrain. His eyes settled on a cluster of dense pine trees beside another rocky ridge. "We can't reach camp tonight," he said grimly. "We need shelter." Anna watched in amazement as Kai set to work. He used pine branches to construct a crude lean-to, clearing snow from beneath it to create a small protected space just big enough for the two of them. And the twins. With stones, he built a fire pit, positioning it carefully to reflect heat inside while letting the smoke escape safely. By the time full darkness fell, the snow was falling steadily. Inside the shelter, Anna curled close to the twins, who lay nestled between her and Kai. The fire crackled softly, casting flickering light on Kai's face as he fed small branches into the flames. "Will we make it to your camp tomorrow?" Anna asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "If the storm passes quickly, yes," Kai replied. "If not, we wait. Traveling blind is too dangerous." Anna nodded, trusting his judgment. She watched him for a long moment, his features relaxed but alert, his hands moving with quiet efficiency. There was a calm in him, a steadiness that wrapped around her like a second blanket. "How did you get separated from your people?" she asked softly. Kai glanced at her as he added wood to the fire. "I was tracking elk. Game has been scarce. When I followed their trail, the storm came faster than expected. I found shelter in a cave, waited it out until I saw your smoke." Anna tilted her head, curious despite her exhaustion. "Were you always a hunter?" A faint smile touched Kai's lips. "Since I could hold a bow, my father taught me rifles too, but I prefer the bow, quieter, better for hunting." He hesitated, glancing at her. "My father also taught me to read and write English. He believed I'd need both worlds." "And has that been true?" Anna asked, brushing a lock of hair from Lily's forehead. Kai's gaze drifted to the flames. "Yes, though it's not always easy. To some settlers I'm too Comanche to trust. To some, in my tribe, I'm too white. But Chief Red Hawk is wise. He understands both worlds matter, especially now." Anna looked into the fire, her thoughts somber. "Samuel and I, we never considered that this land might belong to anyone else." The land agent in Denver said nothing about that. "They rarely do," Kai replied, without anger. "The valley your cabin stands in was hunting ground for generations, but a treaty 5 summers ago pushed our people south." A wave of guilt tightened Anna's chest. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "You have no reason to apologize," Kai said firmly. "You came seeking a place to build a life. The conflicts, those are not your doing." For a time, they sat in silence, the only sounds the pop of the fire and the soft sighs of the twins. Anna felt her body relax, the weight of exhaustion finally pulling at her. When her turn to watch the fire came, Anna found herself studying Kai's face as he slept. His expression softened in rest. She wondered about his life, his family, his path. It struck her then, with sudden clarity, how strange and fragile this moment was. How fate had woven their lives together in a way no one could have foreseen. By morning, the storm had left another foot of fresh snow, but the skies were clear again. Kai emerged first, scanning the landscape before returning to help Anna prepare the babies. "We can reach the camp by nightfall," he promised quietly. Anna bundled Benjamin and Lily tightly, swaddling them together to share body heat. She tied the snowshoes onto her feet, shoulders squared, heart braced. Whatever waited for them at the end of this journey, she knew they would face it together. The morning sun sparkled on the thick layer of new snow, casting the world in a dazzling, icy glow. Anna Gardner shielded her eyes, adjusting her scarf across her face as Kai Blackwood led the way through the wilderness. The twins, Benjamin and Lily, were nestled snugly together in the travois, swaddled in layers of wool and fur. The journey was grueling. Kai broke trail steadily, his snowshoes pressing narrow paths through the drifts, while Anna followed carefully in his tracks. The air was bitter, but the movement warmed her. Now and then, Kai glanced back, offering a quiet nod of reassurance. Despite her aching muscles, Anna felt stronger than she had in weeks, driven by determination, by love, by the faint hope of safety just over the next ridge. As midday approached, the landscape subtly changed. Stands of pine became more frequent, the ground rising and falling in soft waves. By late afternoon, they reached a narrow pass between two rocky ridges. Kai paused at the crest, allowing Anna to catch her breath. "Look," he murmured, gesturing ahead. Anna followed his gaze. Beyond the pass, a sheltered valley stretched below, steam curling from natural springs and melting patches of earth amid the snow. A rough circle of lodges, teepees, she recalled. They were called, dotted the valley floor. Thin columns of smoke drifted from their peaks, and figures moved between them, small as ants from this distance. "Your people," Anna whispered, her chest tightening with a mixture of relief and anxiety. "They've seen us," Kai noted quietly. He pointed to a group of riders breaking away from the camp, approaching at a swift pace. "They're coming to meet us. Do not be afraid." Anna swallowed hard, pulling Benjamin and Lily closer against her chest despite their thick wrappings. Her heart pounded as the riders drew nearer. 4 men on horseback, faces stern, long braids flying behind them. They reined in a short distance away, speaking in Comanche, their gazes sharp as they swept over Kai, Anna, and the travois. Kai responded calmly, his voice low and steady. Occasionally, he gestured toward Anna or the twins. Finally, one of the older riders, gray streaks in his long black hair, nudged his horse forward. "I am Chief Red Hawk," the man said, in accented but clear English. His dark eyes locked onto Anna's. "Kai tells me you lost your husband, that you faced death in the storm. He was right to bring you here." Anna inclined her head, her voice trembling. Thank you for allowing us to come. We would not have survived without Kai's help." Red Hawk studied her silently for a moment, then gave a single nod. "The Comanche do not turn away those in need, especially not children." He gestured to his companions. "We will take you to camp. Kaya's mother awaits you." As they moved toward the settlement, Anna's nerves surged again. She saw people emerging from the lodges, children running ahead to point and shout questions, women watching with reserved curiosity. Anna clutched the twins tightly, feeling the weight of 100 eyes, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake, or if this was impossibly the only path forward. Outside a large lodge near the camp's center, an older woman waited. Her lined face bore a resemblance to Kai's, her gray-streaked hair braided neatly on either side, and her leather dress was adorned with intricate beadwork. "My mother, Singing Willow," Kai said softly, as they stopped before her. The woman's sharp gaze moved directly to the travail. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and gently parted the furs, peering down at Benjamin and Lily. Her face softened, and she murmured something in Comanche that made Kai smile. "She says they have strong spirits," Kai translated. "She welcomes them. And you?" Singing Willow looked up at Anna, her expression assessing but not unkind. She spoke again, and Kai translated, "She says you must be tired. Come inside. There is food and a place to rest." Inside the lodge, the air was warm and fragrant with the scent of smoke and herbs. A fire crackled in a central pit, smoke rising through an opening at the top. Furs and woven mats covered the ground, creating a surprisingly soft, welcoming space. "This will be your place," Kai said, gesturing to a prepared area with extra blankets. "My mother sleeps there," he pointed across the fire. "I'll stay with my cousin's family." Anna carefully laid Lily on the furs, Kai placing Benjamin beside her. The twins, exhausted from the journey, fell asleep almost at once. Singing Willow handed Anna a wooden bowl filled with a rich stew of meat and roots. The aroma made Anna's stomach growl with sudden urgency. As she ate, Anna observed the lodge with wide eyes. Decorated shields, woven baskets, and rawhide containers lined the walls, giving the space a sense of history and belonging. Kai and his mother spoke softly, their tones gentle and affectionate. Though Anna couldn't understand their words, she felt the connection between them, saw it in the way Kai bent his head toward his mother, and the way Singing Willow rested a hand briefly on his arm. When Kai turned back to Anna, his voice was calm. "Chief Redhawk has called a council. Tomorrow, they want you to tell your story." Anna froze, panic flashing through her. What? What should I say?" "To speak the truth," Kai said gently. "They value honesty above all else." As the night deepened, Singing Willow prepared a small clay pot near the fire, mixing herbs and water. She spoke haltingly in English. "Medicine for babies. Strong." Anna watched in quiet awe, humbled by the woman's skill and grace. When Anna's eyelids grew heavy, Singing Willow gestured toward the sleeping furs. "Sleep, safe here." Anna barely had the strength to whisper her thanks. She checked on the twins one last time before pulling a soft buffalo hide over herself. As she drifted into sleep, her last thought was of Samuel, his voice in memory, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. "We came west for a new life," he'd once said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Tears welled in Anna's closed eyes. She was still facing it, still finding a way, and somehow, against all odds, she was no longer alone. Morning in the Comanche camp came quietly. Anna awoke to the smell of smoke and the soft murmurs of voices outside the lodge. For a moment she lay still, unsure of where she was. Then the faint stirring of Benjamin beside her, and Lily's tiny sigh reminded her, and the memory of the past days swept back. She sat up slowly, brushing her hair from her face and glancing toward the fire, where Singing Willow knelt, humming softly as she worked over a small pot. Kay entered the lodge, his movements quiet but assured. He gave Anna a brief, reassuring nod. "Good morning," he said softly. "Did you rest?" Anna offered a small, grateful smile. "Better than I have in weeks." Kakai crouched by the fire, checking on the twins. His gentleness surprised Anna. For all his rugged exterior, there was a quiet tenderness in the way he adjusted Lily's blanket and touched Benjamin's tiny fingers. "Chief Red Hawk will speak with you soon," Kai said, glancing up. "He wants to hear everything. How you came here, what you plan." Anna's stomach tightened. She looked down at her hands, rough and cracked from cold and labor. "I don't know what I plan," she admitted softly. "I only know I want my children to live." Kai nodded, as if that was all that mattered. A short time later, Anna stepped outside into the sunlight. The air was still sharp with winter's bite, but the camp was lively, filled with movement. Children ran between lodges. Women tended fires and sorted hides. Men led ponies to the edge of the trees. Anna felt dozens of eyes turned toward her, some curious, some cautious. She took a deep breath, drawing her shawl tighter, and followed Kai across the packed snow to a central fire where Chief Red Hawk waited. The chief sat with several elders, all wrapped in thick robes, their lined faces weathered by time and wind. Red Hawk gestured for Anna to sit on a low bench near the fire. Kay remained at her side, silent, a steady presence. "Tell us," Red Hawk said, his English measured but clear. "How did you come to be in the storm?" Anna took a deep breath and began. She told them everything, how she and Samuel had left Pennsylvania with dreams of a ranch, how they had built the small cabin in the valley, how Samuel had fallen ill and died only days after the birth of the twins. Her voice shook as she spoke, But she pushed through, describing the blizzard, the dwindling supplies, the despair that had nearly swallowed her whole, until Kai's arrival. When she finished, the circle was silent. Red Hawk watched her closely, his dark eyes unreadable. Then he spoke, first in Comanche, addressing the elders, and then in English to Anna. "You have suffered," he said simply, "but you are strong, and your children are strong." Anna swallowed the lump, rising in her throat. "Thank you," she whispered. Red Hawk leaned slightly forward. "You may stay with us until the spring melt, but know this land has many dangers. Soldiers come closer each season. Settlers move west. Some among my people say we should send you back to your kind to avoid trouble, but I say no." He gave her a long, searching look. "You have lost your people. We have lost many of ours. There is room for sharing, if there is trust." Anna felt her breath hitch. "I'll do everything I can to honor your trust." The meeting ended with quiet nods, and Kai guided her back toward the lodge. Anna felt drained, her nerves worn thin, but a sense of relief began to blossom in her chest. They had a place for now. That afternoon, Anna sat with Singing Willow by the fire, learning to prepare herbs for medicine. The older woman's patience was endless, and despite the language barrier, they found ways to communicate. Anna learned the names of herbs, the uses of roots, the rhythm of crushing and mixing. It was a strange comfort, something to occupy her hands and mind. Outside, Kai trained with several young warriors, demonstrating bow techniques and footwork in the snow. Anna watched through the lodge's opening, noting the grace and power in his movements, the quiet authority he carried even among his people. Later, he returned to the lodge, his face damp with melted snow, a rare glint of amusement in his eyes. "The young ones think they can beat me," he murmured to Anna as he crouched by the fire. "Not today." Anna smiled, a real smile this time, the first she'd felt in days. She offered him a piece of bread Singing Willow had prepared. "Thank you," she said softly, meeting his eyes. Kai accepted the bread with a nod, and for a moment their gazes held something unspoken passing between them. Something that neither fully understood yet, but that felt undeniable. As night fell, the camp settled into a peaceful rhythm. Anna fed the twins, feeling the steady thrum of life around her, the murmur of voices, the occasional bark of a dog, the crackling of many fires. She wrapped Benjamin and Lily in furs, pressing a kiss to each tiny forehead. Outside, under the vast sweep of stars, Kai stood with Red Hawk, their voices low and serious. Anna caught only fragments as she stepped out briefly to gather more wood. "She is strong," Red Hawk murmured. "She is determined," Kai agreed. "Be careful, my son," Red Hawk warned, resting a weathered hand on Kai's shoulder. "Hearts are a dangerous thing in times like these." Kai's gaze flicked toward the lodge where Anna waited, the light spilling from its opening, casting a warm glow into the night. "I know," he said quietly. Inside, Anna stirred the fire one last time, her thoughts heavy but her spirit steadier than it had been in weeks. As she lay down beside her children, she wondered what the future would bring, and for the first time dared to believe there might still be one waiting for them. As the days passed, Anna Gardner gradually settled into the rhythm of life in the Comanche camp. The initial stares of curiosity faded into polite nods, and Anna began to feel the weight of constant scrutiny lift from her shoulders. Each day she learned something new. Singing Willow taught her how to soften hides with a stone scraper, how to twist grass into cords, and how to dye cloth with berries and bark. Anna's hands, once delicate from years in the east, toughened and reddened under the winter's bite. Her muscles, long untested, grew stronger as she carried water from the spring and helped gather firewood. She marveled at the quiet strength of the Comanche women, who worked with a grace and efficiency Anna admired and tried to match. Kai watched from a quiet distance, stepping in only when needed, when Anna struggled to hoist a heavy pot, when the snowdrifts threatened to swallow her tiny firewood bundle, or when the twins fussed and Anna's exhaustion nearly undid her. With each small act, trust grew between them. One evening, As Anna sat outside the lodge, wrapping Benjamin in fresh cloth, she saw two young boys approach cautiously. One had a tangle of black hair and bright, curious eyes. The other, slightly younger, held a carved wooden bird in his hand. Kai appeared beside her, crouching smoothly. "Little fox and soaring feather," he murmured. "They want to see the twins." Anna smiled, heart racing with a strange mix of nervousness and warmth. She shifted on the blanket, lifting Lily into her arms. "Would they like to come closer?" Kai spoke softly to the boys in Comanche. After a moment's hesitation, little Fox approached, peeking at the infants. His eyes widened. Soaring Feather held out his wooden bird shyly. With gentle patience, Kai guided the boys to sit beside Anna for a few precious minutes. Laughter bubbled through the air as Anna let them peek under the blankets, pointing out Benjamin's tiny fingers or Lily's yawns. The boys giggled, whispering excitedly to each other. When they finally darted away, Anna looked up at Kai, a smile brighter than it had been in weeks. "Thank you," she murmured. Kai shrugged lightly, his lips curved in a rare half-smile. "They're curious about you. You're new to their world." As the sun set that night, Anna stood by the edge of the camp, watching as the sky blazed with colors: amber, rose, violet, before surrendering to indigo. Kai approached silently, his footfalls soft in the snow. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "I go with the hunting party. We need more meat." Anna turned, the words catching her off guard. "How long will you be gone?" 3, maybe 4 days. He hesitated, then added, "You'll be safe here. My mother and the others will help you." Anna's throat tightened unexpectedly. She had grown used to his steady presence, the quiet reassurance he brought simply by being near. "Be careful," she said softly. Kai met her gaze, something flickering behind his dark eyes. "I will." The next morning, Anna stood at the edge of camp with Singing Willow, cradling Lily as they watched the hunting party depart. Kai rode at the front, his dark form steady against the pale snow, bows strapped across his back. Anna found herself praying for his safety, for his return, for reasons she couldn't yet name. Life in camp settled into a quieter rhythm during his absence. Anna spent her days tending to the twins, helping Singing Willow, and slowly learning the names of the people around her. She noticed how the women worked in unison, how the children played with surprising discipline, and how the elders watched everything with keen eyes. On the third night, a sudden commotion stirred the camp. Anna rushed outside, heart hammering, to find a group of riders galloping into the clearing. Their faces were grim, their horses lathered with sweat. Singing Willow grasped Anna's arm tightly. "Soldiers," she said, in a strained whisper. "They are close." Panic swept through Anna as she gathered her children, but the camp moved swiftly and without chaos. Men armed themselves, women packed essentials, and children were ushered toward the tree line. Chief Red Hawk approached, his face etched with determination. "We move east at dawn. There's a winter encampment beyond the river. You will go with my family." Anna's chest clenched. "And Kai?" she asked, before she could stop herself. Red Hawk's expression softened slightly. "He will find us. He knows where we go." That night, Anna lay awake beside the twins, her heart aching with worry. She had never imagined herself part of this world, a world of swift decisions, of survival, of quiet resilience. But now it was her world too. She wondered if Kai was safe, if he knew what awaited him on his return. At dawn, the camp stirred into motion. Anna packed the meager belongings she had, wrapping Benjamin and Lily tightly. Singing Willow moved calmly but efficiently, guiding Anna to the group traveling with the elders and children. As the first pale light crept over the mountains, the Comanches slipped into the trees, leaving behind the smoke-darkened ring of lodges, the trampled snow, and the life they had built through the long winter. Anna followed, her heart pounding, every instinct sharpened to protect her children. And somewhere beyond the ridges and the forest, Kai Blackwood rode hard through the snow, his thoughts full of the woman and children he had left behind, uncertain of what waited for him at journey's end. The frozen forest was eerily quiet as the Comanche moved eastward at dawn. Snow muffled every sound, so the only noises were the soft crunch of feet and the occasional whicker of ponies. Anna walked close behind Singing Willow, her arms wrapped tightly around Benjamin, while Lily slept against her chest in a sling. The elders led the way, weaving a path through the thick trees and underbrush, and Anna did her best to keep pace. Despite the bitter cold, sweat prickled at her back from the effort. She stumbled once on an icy root, but a firm hand, Singing Willows, steadied her without a word. Behind them, Anna heard the quiet voices of the women and children. Little Fox darted ahead, now and then, his laughter briefly lighting the grim atmosphere before he was hushed by his mother. Anna admired their strength, their calm. This was not the first time they had to move quickly to avoid soldiers, but for Anna, every step was unfamiliar territory, a walk between worlds she had never imagined herself crossing. By midday, they reached a frozen river. The ice cracked faintly under their weight, but the crossing was swift, led by two men with long poles testing the surface. On the far bank, the elders motioned for a brief rest. Anna sank onto a fallen log, shifting the twins carefully. Her legs ached, her breath puffed in little clouds, but she held herself together. She had to. Singing Willow sat beside her, unwrapping a small bundle of dried berries and venison. She handed Anna a portion with a quiet nod. They ate in silence, sharing a moment of stillness in the cold wilderness. Meanwhile, across the ridge, Kai Blackwood was riding hard. The hunting party had returned successful. Several deer, rabbits, and even a bison calf, but the signs of soldiers near the camp had scattered them into two groups. Kai's instinct had pulled him west, where he spotted tracks leading toward the river. His heart hammered with every stride of his pony, the snow spraying up in a white mist beneath the hooves. When Kai reached the abandoned camp, his gut tightened. The tipis had been hastily struck, the fire pits covered with snow, the ground pockmarked with boot prints, not all of them Comanche. He dismounted, crouching low, fingertips brushing one of the tracks. His mind raced. Honor, the twins, his mother, Chief Red Hawk. Where were they now? Were they safe? Kai, a voice called in Comanche. He turned sharply. Swift wind rode up, his expression grave. They crossed the river at dawn, he said, pointing east. But the soldiers are close. We need to hurry. Without hesitation, Kai vaulted onto his pony and spurred it forward. His thoughts narrowed to a single purpose: finding Anna and the children before it was too late. Back in the moving column, Anna noticed a change in the elders' expressions. Red Hawk had ridden ahead and returned with news that tightened the mood even further. Without needing to understand the words, Anna felt it in the air. They were being pursued. The pace quickened. Anna's legs burned with each step, but she gritted her teeth, cradling the babies closer. Singing Willow pressed a hand to Anna's shoulder, murmuring softly in Comanche. A blessing, a comfort, perhaps a promise that they would make it. By late afternoon, snow began falling again, a thin, stinging veil that blurred the trees ahead. Anna stumbled more frequently, her vision swimming with exhaustion. But when she looked down at Benjamin's peaceful face, at Lily's small hand curled near her chin, a fierce determination surged inside her. Suddenly a shout rang out ahead. Anna's head snapped up, her heart lurching. The children were hurried toward the trees, the elders spread out to form a protective ring. Anna clutched the twins, stumbling to keep up, her breath ragged. The sound of hoofbeats came next, fast, hard, closing the distance. Anna's pulse pounded in her ears. She turned, her heart seizing with panic, only to see a familiar figure galloping into the clearing. Kai! He pulled his pony to a sliding stop, leaping down and crossing to her in long strides. Anna barely had time to register his arrival before his hands were on her shoulders, his eyes sweeping over her, the twins, the scattered people around them. You're safe, Kai murmured, relief etched into every line of his face. Anna sagged with a choked sob, tears springing to her eyes. "You found us," she breathed. Kai turned swiftly, scanning the tree line. "The soldiers are close," he warned over his shoulder. "We can stay here." Red Hawk rode up, his face grim. The two men spoke rapidly in Comanche, their voices tight with urgency. Then Kai turned to Anna. "We split the group. My mother and some of the elders will take the children deeper into the woods." "You?" His gaze locked on Anna. "You come with me." Anna hesitated, glancing toward Singing Willow, who gave a single firm nod of approval. Anna swallowed hard and reached out, letting Kai lift her onto the back of his pony. Carefully, he handed the babies up to her, ensuring they were wrapped tightly in her arms. With a quick word to Red Hawk, Kai swung onto the saddle behind her. His arms came around, steadying her and the children, and with a sharp cry to the pony, they surged forward into the snowy woods. The wind bit at Anna's face, the cold cutting like a knife, but she buried her face against the babies, feeling the solid warmth of Kai behind her, the rhythmic thud of hooves beneath. Trees blurred past as they rode hard, weaving through narrow paths only Kai seemed to know. Hours later, they slowed at a rocky outcrop beneath a dense stand of pines. Kai slid off first, helping Anna down carefully. The twins whimpered faintly, but they were safe, their tiny bodies radiating warmth against Anna's chest. Kai scanned the darkness, his breath coming hard, and then turned to Anna. His hand brushed her cheek briefly, checking for frostbite, before pulling her gently toward the cover of the trees. "We'll wait here," he murmured. "Rest." Anna sank to the ground, cradling the babies as the night closed in around them. Exhaustion threatened to overtake her, but she forced herself to stay alert, to hold on to this small, fragile corner of safety. And beside her, Kai crouched, bow in hand, his dark eyes fixed on the shadows, silent, watchful, ready. Night fell heavily over the forest, wrapping Kai and Anna in a deep, restless quiet. Beneath the pines, they found the faintest pocket of shelter, a low overhang of rock, where the snow had not yet drifted thick. Anna huddled with Benjamin and Lily, wrapped against her chest, their tiny breaths warm against her skin. Kite crouched at the edge of the clearing, his bow resting across his knees, every muscle coiled and listening. The moon hung pale and cold in the sky, casting silver through the bare branches. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted softly, its call sharp in the stillness. Anna tried to close her eyes, but her heart raced, sleep just out of reach. She could feel the ache in her bones, the raw sting of cold on her cheeks, and beneath it all, the deep, gnawing fear. She had come so far, survived so much, but the danger felt closer than ever. Kai turned at last, his dark silhouette outlined by moonlight. "Rest, Anna," he murmured softly. "I will keep watch." For a long moment, she simply watched him, the way his breath hung in the air, the steady line of his shoulders, the quiet command in his posture. Slowly, almost without realizing it, Anna's eyes drifted shut. By dawn, the snow had softened to a light dusting, and the forest stirred with faint signs of life. Anna woke with a start, blinking against the dim light. For a moment she panicked, arms tightening instinctively around the babies. But then she saw Kai, still seated where he had been, eyes vigilant and face calm. "We need to move," Kai said quietly, as she stirred. "The others will be waiting." Anna pushed herself upright, stiff and cold, but determined. Kai helped her onto the pony once again, carefully wrapping the babies and securing them close against her. His touch was sure, his hands steady despite the urgency humming just beneath his calm exterior. They set off through the trees, the soft hush of snow under hooves the only sound. Anna clung to the twins, her heart beating in rhythm with the pony's steady gait. She knew Kai was choosing paths few would think to follow. Narrow deer trails, half-frozen creeks, the thinnest cracks in the forest that allowed them to slip unseen. By midday, they emerged into a narrow gorge where the cliffs pressed close on either side. There, waiting in the hollow, stood Red Hawk, Singing Willow, and the others, huddled but safe. Relief crashed over Anna, so sharp and sudden it nearly stole her breath. Singing Willow hurried forward, her arms open, and Anna handed the babies into her waiting embrace. Kai swung down from the saddle, his face unreadable as he exchanged a few rapid words with Red Hawk. Anna watched him, the realization dawning slowly that he had never truly relaxed until this moment. That afternoon, the group made camp in the gorge, hidden by the cliffs and protected by the dense pines. It offered a rare pocket of safety. Fires were built, small and carefully shielded from view. Food was shared, dried meat, hard biscuits, and whatever roots and berries they had gathered along the way. Anna sat close to the fire with Singing Willow, cradling Lily while Benjamin dozed beside her. As she fed the baby, she glanced toward Kai, who crouched a few yards away, sharpening his knife on a stone. His expression was thoughtful, his gaze flicking now and then toward the edges of the gorge. When their eyes met across the fire, Anna felt a quiet shift between them, a recognition, a fragile thread drawing tight. As night settled, Red Hawk called the group together. "We cannot stay here long," he warned quietly. "The soldiers are still near. In 2 days, we move east to the Black Hills." Anna's heart twisted. Another journey, another flight into the unknown. That night, as the camp settled, Anna found herself standing near Kai. The moon was high overhead, and the sound of sleeping bodies drifted softly from the fires. She hesitated, then stepped closer. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for coming back." Kai's gaze softened, the edges of his features gentler in the moonlight. "I would not have left you," he said simply. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the cold air swirling between them. Then, with a quiet breath, Kai turned back toward the sleeping camp. But Anna felt the weight of his words settle over her like a promise, a steady warmth beneath the winter sky. The next morning, as they prepared to move again, Anna noticed something in the air, an undercurrent of tension, awareness in the way the warriors tightened their gear, the way Red Hawk moved more swiftly, scanning the ridges. Kai approached her just as she secured the last blanket around the twins. "Be ready," he murmured. "If anything happens, stay with Singing Willow." Anna's fingers trembled as she finished tying the bundle. She met Kai's eyes, drawing strength from his calm. "I will," she promised. As the group began its slow march eastward, Anna walked beside Singing Willow, the babies nestled close. Kai took point with Red Hawk and Swift Wind, his bow slung across his chest, every step purposeful. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, the snow-muffled sound turning every crack of a branch or distant bird call into something sharp and jarring. Anna kept her eyes fixed on Kai's broad shoulders ahead, willing herself to match his determination. They moved as shadows, slipping through the trees, weaving around frozen streams and narrow ravines. Anna felt the weight of every step, every breath, every moment, knowing that just beyond the trees, a world waited that could crush them without hesitation. But for now they were still moving, and for now they were still together. The next 2 days tested every ounce of Anna's strength. The cold sharpened as the group moved deeper into the forest, their breath hanging in pale clouds as they crossed frozen streams and climbed narrow ridges. Each night they stopped only briefly, huddling in small clusters around low fires hidden beneath thick pine boughs. Anna kept the twins bundled close, their tiny faces red from the cold, but blessedly healthy. Singing Willow walked beside her tirelessly, often slipping food into Anna's hands, a strip of dried venison, a piece of bread, a handful of berries. Anna accepted each gift with whispered gratitude, marveling at the woman's quiet resilience. Kai remained at the front with Red Hawk and Swift Wind, his figure often barely visible through the trees. But even when she couldn't see him, Anna felt his presence, the quiet assurance that he was watching, guiding, guarding. On the third evening they reached a wide clearing surrounded by towering trees. Red Hawk raised his hand, signaling a stop. Anna sank to her knees, her legs trembling, cradling Lily while Benjamin stirred restlessly. Kai approached swiftly, kneeling beside her. "We rest here," he murmured, brushing snow from a flat patch of ground. "You need to eat." Anna's fingers shook as she unwrapped a small cloth bundle of food. "How much farther?" she asked softly. Kai glanced east, his brow furrowing. 2 more days, if the weather holds. Anna drew a shaky breath, steeling herself. "We'll make it." A faint smile touched Kai's lips. "Yes, you will." That night, as the camp settled, Anna sat close to the fire with Singing Willow. The older woman showed her how to twist pine needles into cord, their fingers working side by side in the flickering light. Little Fox and Soaring Feather approached shyly, offering small handfuls of berries they had collected. Anna's heart warmed at their presence. The children's laughter, though hushed, was a balm against the relentless cold. Later, Anna watched as Kai and Red Hawk conferred near the edge of the clearing, their voices low, their faces drawn. She couldn't hear the words, but she recognized the weight in their expressions, the worry, the planning, the quiet resolve. When Kai returned to the fire, he crouched beside Anna. "Tomorrow, we split again," he said softly. "The warriors will circle south to draw off any soldiers. The rest will keep moving east." Anna's breath caught. "And you?" "I go with the warriors." His gaze softened. "But I will find you." Anna's chest tightened. "Be careful," she whispered, her fingers tightening around the blanket swaddling Benjamin. Kai hesitated, then reached out, brushing his fingertips lightly against her wrist. "I promise." The next morning broke cold and gray. The camp stirred quietly. Fires doused, packs strapped. Anna kissed the tops of her babies' heads, whispering soft words of comfort as they wriggled in their swaddles. Singing Willow touched her shoulder, a reassuring presence. When the time came to part, Kai approached, his breath steaming in the cold air. For a moment, words failed them. Then Anna stepped forward, reaching for his hand. "Come back," she said softly. Kai squeezed her hand, his dark eyes steady. "I will." Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the trees with Red Hawk and the other warriors, their forms slipping like shadows into the winter forest. Anna stood frozen for a moment, staring after him, her heart tight in her chest. Then Singing Willow gently urged her forward, and together they moved east, slipping between the trees, the sound of the baby's soft breathing filling the cold air. The day passed in a blur of snow and motion. Anna stumbled often, but each time a hand caught her. Singing Willow, Little Fox's mother, one of the older men steadying her elbow. The group moved as one, bound by survival and an unspoken determination. By afternoon, the snow began to fall harder, a thick curtain that turned the world gray and featureless. Anna clutched the twins close, her muscles burning, her breath ragged. Still, she pressed on, matching the pace set by those around her. As dusk fell, they reached the edge of a frozen marsh, its surface glazed with ice and ringed by dense reeds. Singing Willow raised a hand, signaling a halt. Anna collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath, tears of exhaustion and fear prickling at her eyes. Singing Willow crouched beside her, murmuring softly in Comanche, pressing a strip of cloth into Anna's hands to wrap around the babies. Anna took a shaky breath, forcing herself to steady. They would keep moving. They had no other choice. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Kai moved swiftly with Red Hawk and the warriors. They left no trail, slipping through thickets and across frozen streams with the sure-footed grace of men born to the land. As night fell, Kai crouched on a ridge, watching the flicker of distant campfires, soldiers perhaps half a day behind. His jaw tightened. With careful precision, he loosed an arrow into the trees, a signal to the others. They would lead the soldiers astray, give the others time. But even as he moved, Kai's thoughts were drawn east, toward a pale-skinned woman with quiet strength, toward 2 fragile lives swaddled in wool and hope, toward the place where his heart had unexpectedly settled. The next morning broke with a pale, watery sun, barely touching the treetops. Anna Gardner woke stiff and cold, her arms wrapped protectively around the twins. The camp was already stirring. Singing Willow moved quietly through the snow, distributing small bundles of food, while Little Fox and Soaring Feather helped gather kindling, their faces pinched with a determination beyond their years. Anna forced herself upright, every muscle protesting. She cradled Benjamin and Lily, brushing snowflakes from their blankets, and murmured soft words of comfort. The babies stirred faintly, their cheeks pink with cold, but their breathing strong. They were fighters, just like their mother. The group moved east again, slipping through dense pine and over frozen ridges. Ina stumbled often, but Singing Willow was always there, steady as stone, her arm firm around Anna's waist when the path grew treacherous. By midday, the forest began to thin, and Anna caught her first glimpse of open land, rolling white hills stretching beyond the trees, the black hills rising like a dark promise on the horizon. A sense of quiet awe settled over the group. They were close, but even as hope stirred, a faint tension threaded through the air. Red Hawk, who had rejoined the group briefly during the night, spoke quickly with Singing Willow, his face lined with concern. Anna caught only fragments of their words, but she understood the meaning well enough. The soldiers were still out there, circling, closing in. As dusk approached, the group reached a rocky ravine. Red Hawk raised a hand, calling a halt. Anna collapsed onto a fallen log, trembling with exhaustion. Singing Willow knelt beside her, pressing a warm drink into her hands, a thin broth that tasted of herbs and smoke. "Rest," the older woman murmured, her voice low but reassuring. Anna sipped slowly, feeling the warmth spread through her chilled body. She closed her eyes briefly, imagining Kai somewhere in the darkness, his strong hands drawing back a bowstring, his keen eyes tracking every movement. Was he safe? Would he find them? Suddenly, a ripple of sound broke the stillness, the soft crack of a branch, the hush of footsteps over snow. Anna's heart leapt. She clutched the twins close, her eyes darting toward the trees. From through the shadows, a familiar figure emerged. Kaye. His dark hair was damp with melted snow, his furs dusted white, his face drawn but alive with urgency. Anna let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her knees nearly buckling as he reached her. "You're here," she whispered, her voice breaking. Kai nodded once, his eyes sweeping over her. "The babies, the group, we have to move," he murmured, urgency tightening his voice. "The soldiers are closer than we thought." Red Hawk appeared at Kai's shoulder, his face grave. A rapid exchange followed. In Comanche, their voices clipped and intense. Anna's hands trembled as she wrapped the twins tighter. "What's happening?" she asked softly. Kai turned to her, his expression gentler, but firm. "We split again. A smaller group, moving fast, through the old hunting trails. You come with me." Anna's chest tightened, but she only nodded. There was no time for fear, no time for hesitation. As the group divided, Kai lifted Anna onto a pony, securing the babies carefully in her arms. He moved with practiced speed, his hands sure even as the sky darkened and the wind picked up. They slipped into the trees, a small band of shadows winding through the night. The moon cast silver light on the snow, turning the forest into a world of quiet ghosts. Anna felt the thrum of the pony beneath her, the cold sting of air against her cheeks, and the steady, reassuring presence of Kai at her side. They rode for hours, until Anna's limbs were numb, until even her mind began to blur with exhaustion. But still, Kai pressed on, leading them deeper into the woods, his every movement driven by an unyielding will to protect. At last, near midnight, they reached a narrow hollow shielded by rocks and fallen trees. Kai raised a hand, signaling a halt. "We rest here," he murmured, helping Anna down. "Just for a little while." But Anna's legs buckled, and Kai caught her easily, lowering her to the ground with the babies cradled against her. She pressed her face to Benjamin's soft head, feeling the reassuring rise and fall of his breath. Lily stirred faintly, her tiny fingers curling against Anna's neck. Kai crouched beside her, brushing snow from her hair. "You're stronger than you know," he whispered. Anna lifted her eyes, her throat tight. "I couldn't have done this without you." Kai's mouth curved in the faintest smile. "We survived together." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the only sounds the soft crackle of a tiny fire and the distant whisper of the wind. Anna felt the enormity of everything, the loss, the fear, the fragile threads that now bound her life to this man and these people. And in that moment, she realized she had crossed a line she could never uncross. This was her family now. Her heart tightened, fierce and tender all at once. When Kai finally stood, bow in hand, and took his place at the edge of the hollow to keep watch, Anna wrapped the babies close and closed her eyes. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight she was not alone. Morning broke in pale streaks of silver and grey, casting long shadows across the snowy hollow. Anna stirred first, her body stiff from the cold and the unforgiving ground. She felt the weight of the twins tucked against her, their tiny breaths warm against her neck. Blinking against the light, she raised her head and saw Kai crouched at the edge of the trees, bow in hand, his silhouette still and sharp against the drifting snow. For a moment she simply watched him, his quiet strength, the way his shoulders remained tense even in stillness. Then he turned, as if sensing her gaze, and his face softened at the sight of her awake. "We need to move," Kai murmured as he approached, his voice low but gentle. "The soldiers are only a few hours behind." Anna pushed herself upright, swallowing the ache in her limbs. "I'm ready," she whispered, though her body trembled with exhaustion. Kai knelt, helping her to her feet and adjusting the blankets around Benjamin and Lily. His fingers brushed lightly against hers as he worked, sending a shiver through Anna that had nothing to do with the cold. They moved quickly after that, slipping through narrow trails and deer paths, winding their way through dense trees and icy ravines. Red Hawk and a few others rejoined them mid-morning, faces tight with urgency. The soldiers had been sighted closer, faster than expected. The group pressed on. Anna's legs burned. Her breath came in ragged gasps. But she refused to falter. Each time she stumbled, Kai was there, his hand steady at her elbow, his voice a quiet anchor. Singing Willow walked just ahead, her grey-streaked braids swinging with each step, a pillar of calm amid the chaos. By late afternoon, the land began to change. The dense pine gave way to sparser trees, and beyond the rise, Anna glimpsed the sweep of the Black Hills at last, their dark forms rising like a fortress beyond the snow. A breath hitched in her chest, a sound halfway between a sob and a laugh. They were close, but the soldiers were closer. As dusk fell, the group pushed into a narrow gorge, the walls rising steep and sheer on either side. The sound of hoofbeats reached them then, faint at first, then unmistakable, pounding through the hush of the forest. Kai turned sharply, his eyes flashing to Red Hawk. Words passed between them in rapid Comanche, too quick for Anna to follow. Then Kai was at her side, his hand firm on her shoulder. "You go ahead with Singing Willow and the others," he said quietly. "We'll hold them at the gorge." Anna's throat tightened. "No." Kai's hand came up, gentle but unyielding. "Anna, you must keep moving." For a moment, she thought she might break apart right there, her heart clawing at her chest, but then Singing Willow was beside her, guiding her firmly forward, her voice low and urgent. Anna turned to Kai, her voice shaking. "Come back to me." Kadsi gave a small, fleeting smile, one that softened the hard lines of his face. "I will." And then, he was gone, a shadow slipping toward the narrow mouth of the gorge, Red Hawk and the warriors close behind. Anna stumbled forward with the others, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The babies stirred against her, their soft cries muffled by the blankets. Singing Willow kept a steady hand at her back, murmuring quiet reassurances as they climbed a narrow path cut into the rocks. From behind them came the distant crack of gunfire, sharp and brutal against the stillness. Anna's knees nearly gave out, a sob catching in her throat. Singing Willow turned, her voice firmer this time. "We must go, Anna, for the little ones." Anna clutched the babies tighter, her jaw trembling, and forced herself onward. They climbed through the dusk, slipping between rocks and underbrush, until at last they reached a high ridge that overlooked a hidden valley beyond. Anna collapsed to her knees, her chest heaving, her arms trembling around the twins. Singing Willow knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "We wait here," she murmured. "They will come." Hours passed. The moon rose, pale and cold, casting silver light across the snow. Anna sat with her back against a rock. The twins pressed close, her ears straining for any sound, any sign. The children slept, their small faces relaxed, unaware of the storm raging just beyond the hills. And then, soft footsteps on snow. Anna's head snapped up, her breath caught in her chest. Kai emerged from the trees, his bow slung across his shoulder, his dark hair damp with sweat and snow, his face drawn and pale but alive. Anna let out a strangled cry, half sob, half laughter, and pushed to her feet. The twins clutched tightly. Kai reached her in 3 long strides, his arms going around her, his body folding around all 3 of them. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Anna pulled back just enough to look up at him, her eyes shining with fierce, exhausted joy. "You came back." Kai's mouth curved in a tired but genuine smile. "I promised." Around them the others gathered quietly, relief softening their tense faces. Red Hawk clasped Kai's shoulder briefly, murmuring a few words in Comanche before moving away. Anna sagged against Kai, her body finally surrendering to the weight of days without rest, without safety, without certainty. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe they might make it. The next morning dawned, bright and brittle, sunlight scattering across the snowy hills like shards of glass. Anna stirred slowly, blinking up at the pale sky. For the first time in weeks, she awoke not to the sound of footsteps or urgent whispers, but to the gentle hush of the wind over snow, the faint cooing of the twins beside her, and the warmth of Kai's arm draped lightly across her shoulders. They had survived the night. Anna sat up carefully, cradling Benjamin and Lily, their small faces pink and peaceful. A soft laugh slipped from her lips, almost disbelieving. She glanced over at Kai, who was already awake, watching her with quiet eyes. "We're close," he murmured, voice rough with fatigue, but threaded with something lighter, something like hope. "There's a sheltered valley just beyond the ridge. That's where we'll winter." Singing Willow approached, her gray-streaked braids swinging as she knelt beside Anna, offering a small clay bowl of broth. "Eat," she said softly, smiling with gentle insistence. Anna took it with grateful hands, sipping slowly as warmth spread through her chilled body. Red Hawk conferred quietly with the others, his sharp gaze sweeping the horizon. The warriors who had stayed behind to hold the soldiers at the gorge had rejoined them during the night, bone-weary but alive. The price had been high, but they had bought precious time. The group moved cautiously through the morning, winding along narrow trails skirting the base of the Black Hills. The land began to soften, the snow thinning under the embrace of scattered evergreens and rocky outcrops. The sheer beauty of it stole Anna's breath. The vast sky, the jagged cliffs, the quiet power of the earth itself. Kai led them steadily, his sure-footedness like a lifeline. Anna watched the way he moved, the way the others deferred to him even when Red Hawk gave the orders. There was something in him she hadn't fully understood at first. Strength tempered by patience, leadership earned not through force, but through quiet steadiness. By afternoon, they reached the mouth of the valley. Anna stopped, heart thudding as she took in the sight. A wide basin ringed with hills, its floor sprinkled with evergreens and cradled by a winding stream. Smoke curled from the remains of an old winter camp, and faintly, Anna heard the distant laughter of children, Comanche families who had come ahead to prepare the ground. Tears blurred her vision. "They were here." Catty turned to her, a small, quiet smile lifting the corners of his mouth. "Welcome home," he said softly. Anna pressed her face to Benjamin's downy head, laughter and sobs mingling in her throat. She reached for Kai's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, the group entered the valley. Families emerged to greet them, women calling softly, children running to clasp small hands, men clasping forearms in quiet relief. Singing Willow was surrounded by familiar faces, her voice warm as she introduced Anna to those who came forward with cautious smiles. Anna felt herself swept along, overwhelmed but buoyed by the kindness around her. She settled into a new lodge near Singing Willows, placing the twins on a bed of soft furs as others prepared food and gathered water. When she stepped outside again, Kai was waiting near the fire, his face turned to the darkening sky. She crossed to him without hesitation, standing at his side. "They have a place here now," Anna said quietly, nodding toward the babies. "And I suppose I do too." Kai's gaze slid to hers, something deep and unspoken flickering in his eyes. "You belong," he said simply. For a moment, Anna wanted to speak, to tell him all the things crowding in her heart, the gratitude, the fear, the tentative, impossible hope blooming inside her, but the words tangled on her tongue. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. They stood like that as the night folded in around them, side by side beneath the vast, starlit sky. In the days that followed, the valley transformed into a bustling, living camp. Anna learned to carry water from the stream, to help mend clothing, to prepare hides alongside the women. She marveled at the way the Comanche moved as one body, each person a vital thread in the fabric of their survival. Singing Willow taught her to make cradle boards for the babies, wrapping them in warm hides and binding them safely for travel or rest. Anna watched, learned, and gradually began to see herself not as an outsider, but as part of something. The twins flourished. Benjamin grew round-cheeked and curious, always kicking free of his blankets. Lily, delicate and calm, watched everything with wide, solemn eyes. Anna's heart swelled with every small milestone. The first smiles, the first soft coos, the first moments when they reached for her with trusting hands. Kai remained a constant presence, sometimes near, sometimes just beyond the edge of her sight, but always there. He trained the young men, hunted, scouted the ridges, and each evening he returned to the fire, where Anna waited, their conversations growing longer, their silences more comfortable. One night, as they sat beside the flames, Anna turned to him, her voice quiet but certain. "I don't know where this road ends," she said, "but I know I want to walk it with you." Kai's expression softened, his dark eyes steady as they met hers. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We walk it together," he murmured, and under the vast sweep of stars they sealed that quiet promise, not with grand words, but with a steady, enduring certainty. The winter deepened in the valley, but within the circle of teepees there was life, warmth, and a fragile sense of peace. And a gardener awoke each day to the soft murmurs of the camp, the quiet laughter of children, the rhythmic scrape of hides being worked, the distant crack of an axe splitting wood. She had become part of this rhythm, moving among the Comanche women as they prepared food, repaired clothing, and watched over the younger ones. She marveled at their quiet strength, the way they worked without complaint, their fingers quick and sure in the cold. Anna learned to make beaded ornaments with Singing Willow, weaving delicate patterns into strips of leather that would later adorn the baby's cradle boards. Little Fox and Soaring Feather often came to sit beside her, their eyes wide with curiosity as she worked, their questions tumbling over each other, until Singing Willow gently shooed them away with a fond laugh. Each day, Anna watched the twins grow stronger. Benjamin had developed a wide, toothless grin and a fierce little kick, while Lily, ever serene, reached for Anna's face with soft, curious fingers. The women of the camp doted on them, passing them around with easy affection, murmuring blessings in Comanche as they rocked the babies in their arms. Kai Blackwood remained a steady presence. He came and went with the hunting parties, sometimes gone for days, but always returning with food, furs, and news of the land beyond the hills. When he was home, he sat by the fire with Anna, teaching her the names of stars, the shapes of animal tracks, and the ways to listen for danger in the wind. Their conversations grew easier, their silences more meaningful. Anna found herself watching him when he didn't see, admiring the quiet command in his movements, the way the children gathered around him, the way Red Hawk consulted him like a son. One night, after the camp had settled into sleep, Anna stepped out into the crisp, moonlit air. She cradled Benjamin and Lily close, their soft breaths puffing against her neck, and gazed up at the stars scattered across the vast black sky. Kai approached quietly, his footsteps barely stirring the snow. He stopped beside her, folding his arms across his chest, his eyes on the stars. "It's beautiful," Anna murmured, her voice low. Kai nodded, his profile sharp in the moonlight. "My father used to say the stars hold our ancestors, that they watch over us. Even now." Anna turned to look at him, her heart tightening. "Do you think they hear us?" Kai was silent for a long moment. Then he murmured, "I think they hear the truths we carry, even when we can't speak them." Anna swallowed hard, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. She wanted to tell him so much, to say how grateful she was, how deeply her heart had shifted, how she no longer knew where her world ended and his began. But instead she reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his. Kay's hand turned, his fingers curling around hers, strong and warm. They stood like that, the night wrapped around them, the babies asleep in Anna's arms, the stars watching in their silent, eternal way. As the days passed, the camp slowly prepared for spring. Though the snow still clung to the ground, there was a subtle change in the air, the soft drip of melting ice, the faint stirrings of birds in the trees. Anna helped pack stores of dried meat and furs, learning to wrap bundles tight with cord, watching as Singing Willow taught her to balance a load across her back. Red Hawk gathered the leaders one evening, speaking of plans for the warmer months, where the herds might roam, where the safest ground lay, how to avoid conflict with settlers and soldiers. Anna listened quietly at the edge of the circle, her arms wrapped around the twins, her eyes flicking often to Kai, who sat near Red Hawk, his expression thoughtful and intent. Later, Kai found her near the lodge, his face unreadable. "There is a choice you will have to make," he said quietly. "When the snow melts," Anna's breath caught. "What choice?" "To stay," Kai murmured, his eyes holding hers, "or to return to the world you came from." Anna felt her heart twist, a sudden ache blooming deep in her chest. "I don't know what's left for me out there," she whispered. "My family, my home, it's gone." Kai's voice softened. "Then maybe your home is here." Anna gazed at him, her throat tight with unspoken words. She looked down at the twins, at the soft, sleepy rise and fall of their small bodies, at the delicate grip of Lily's fingers on her shawl. She already knew. She had known for some time. That night, as she lay curled on the furs beside the babies, she whispered her decision into the dark, into the quiet, into the waiting ears of the stars. And somehow, she felt them listening. Spring came slowly to the valley. The snow softened first, turning to slush underfoot, and the trees budded with the faintest whisper of green. The stream that cut through the valley swelled with meltwater, its song echoing through the hills like a promise. Anna Gardner stood at the edge of the camp, Benjamin on one hip, Lily cradled against her chest, watching as the world shifted toward life again. It had been months since they arrived, months of quiet rebuilding and slow healing. Anna had learned to tan hides, cook over open fire, weave grasses, and cradle her children in a world she never imagined as home. But now, with the snow melting and the paths reopening, the question she had long carried pressed heavily against her heart. Would she stay? Or would she leave? Kai Blackwood approached from across the clearing, his steps light on the thawing ground. He had been hunting at dawn, his face dusted with sweat, his hair damp where it curled at his neck. When his eyes met hers, something warm and steady passed between them. He stopped beside her, glancing at the babies with a faint, fond smile. "They'll know this place as home," he murmured. Anna shifted, resting her head lightly against his shoulder for a breath before pulling back. "I know," she whispered. "I was just remembering what we came from, what we survived." Kay's gaze turned thoughtful, his dark eyes scanning the horizon. "You're strong, Anna," he said quietly. "You found a place among us. You found family." Anna felt her throat tighten. Her eyes stinging, she reached up, brushing her fingers briefly over Kaya's hand. "I found you." The next morning, Red Hawk called the camp together. Families gathered near the central fire, as plans were laid out for the months ahead. Hunting parties, migrations, routes to safer grounds, all spoken with the calm, measured cadence of people who knew the land better than they knew their own reflection. When Red Hawk finished, he turned to Anna. "You have walked a hard road," he said, his English careful but sure. "You have a place here, if you choose it, you and the little ones." Anna rose slowly, the twins bundled close in her arms, her eyes sweeping across the circle of faces, some familiar, some still new, all waiting. She met Red Hawk's gaze, then Singing Willow's, then Kai's, and she spoke the truth. She had carried all winter. "I choose to stay." There was no applause, no cheer, only the quiet nods of approval, the soft murmurs of welcome, the sense of something clicking into place. Anna felt her knees go weak with relief, with joy, with the sheer impossible wonder of it. The days grew longer, and life in the valley settled into its spring rhythm. Anna and Kai worked side by side, tending the camp, teaching the young boys to shape arrows, watching the twins grow strong beneath the wide, endless sky. Benjamin learned to crawl first, pushing through the grass with fierce determination, his laughter carrying on the breeze. Lily, more patient, watched her brother's antics with quiet amusement before she too began to explore, her small hands reaching for the sunlit world around her. Singing Willow became a grandmother in all but name, doting on the twins, teaching Anna the lullabies and blessings of her people. Anna soaked it all in, weaving her past and her present into something new, something whole. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills and the stars began to prick the sky, Kai led Anna to a rise overlooking the valley. The babies slept back at the lodge, watched over by Singing Willow and the women. Kai stood in the hush of twilight, his face lit by the last gold rays. Anna joined him, slipping her hand into his. For a long time, they said nothing. Then Kai spoke, his voice low. "You crossed a world to stand here, Anna." She smiled faintly, leaning into him. "And I would do it again." He turned, brushing a thumb lightly against her cheek. "You are not just surviving anymore," he murmured. "You are living." Anna closed her eyes, feeling the truth of it settle deep in her bones. They stood like that as night fell, two lives once shaped by loss and hardship, now stitched together by choice, by love, by the quiet, relentless will to keep moving forward. Beneath them, the valley stretched out, the fires flickering like stars fallen to earth, the children's laughter echoing in the dusk. And above, the sky watched on, vast and eternal. Months later, when word came of peace talks between the Comanche and the soldiers, Anna felt the first stirrings of a different kind of hope. Maybe, she thought as she watched the children play, this fragile, fierce little world they had built could endure. And even if it didn't, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever road lay ahead, they would walk it together,